And so quickly being 3 years. I think 3 years is probably a reasonable number. And then once that hybrid system, the hybrid quantum computer, has 3 elements, CPU, GPU, and quantum, will be able to break RSA, ECC, and the other asymmetric encryptions. Once that happens, nothing's safe. Give him a lot of credit. He challenged that all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And then as the Supreme Court was about to hear the case, the NSA dropped the case, right?
Wow.
So we question, why did they drop the case? They dropped the
case.
They either dropped the case because they already had a backdoor to develop their own backdoor, or that they were afraid that they would lose, and in which case they couldn't force, strong-arm other companies and developers into giving them backdoors.
Hey everyone, David Bombal back with the amazing OTW. OTW, great to have you back on the show.
Thank you, David. It's always an honor to be on the best IT and cybersecurity show on YouTube. And before we start, David, I just want to give you a shout out for all the excellent work you've done over the years.
Appreciate it, man.
And in trying to educate the public in these key issues of cybersecurity. So thank you very much for what you do.
No, I appreciate it. And, thanks so much for sharing your knowledge for free. And what I really appreciate you doing is, we were saying off camera, you will say some things and you'll get some heat about it. But I think it's really important that you feel free to share your opinions. You're in the US, so you have the First Amendment, so you guys can say what you like. So feel free to, continue saying things. In the UK, I have to be a bit more careful. But jokes aside, OTW is the author of this book. Really glad to see that you've got an updated version. Linux Basics for Hackers, for everyone who's watching. Fantastic book. Go and have a look at the reviews on Amazon. Highly recommend that you have a look at this, and really happy that you've got version 2, or should I say second edition out. And you also wrote this amazing book, Network Basics for Hackers. Obviously, I love networking, so this is a fantastic book. And getting started becoming a master hacker. OTW, I always push you on this. Python for hackers, hopefully soon, right?
Well, it's scheduled for publication in September.
Great.
That's our schedule right now. So hopefully we meet that schedule. For those people who have pre-purchased it, we'll send you out an email notifying you when it is ready. No need to email us. Just wait until you get the email, and we'll let you know when it's ready, and we'll be shipping it hopefully soon.
Oh, that's great. So for everyone who's watching, have a look at the links below if you're interested. Go buy the books from Amazon. Go check out OTW's website. I want to thank Brilliant for sponsoring this video. Now, data, it's everywhere, right? But making sense of it, that can be very, very intimidating. If you want to understand those numbers, those charts, and a whole bunch more, then check out Brilliant. They have a fantastic course called Exploring Data Visually. What's fantastic here is that it's a hands-on experience. You're not just reading, you're not just watching a boring video, you're actually involved in your learning. They also use real-world data from Airbnb and from Spotify. You'll be able to see the trends and learn by doing. Hands-on training is always better than just watching a video or just reading a book. While you're learning, you're also developing that critical thinking muscle, and this helps make sure that you don't just consume information, but master it. And Brilliant can help you confidently interpret and manipulate the data yourself. Want to try everything Brilliant has to offer? Go to brilliant.org/David Bombal and get access to everything that Brilliant has to offer for free. You could also scan the QR code on screen. You'll also get 20% off an annual premium subscription. So use my link or scan the QR code to get started. Big shout out to Brilliant for sponsoring this video. But OTW, without any more waiting, I got to ask you this question. Encryption today is something we rely on. Websites rely on public key cryptography. We've just recently in the news seen that the US has pushed back against the UK government about trying to get a backdoor on Apple's encryption, and the whole idea there's, again, very strong encryption on Apple devices. But there's stuff happening in the news, right, with regards to encryption. So perhaps you can tell us about, your thoughts of where things are going in the next few years and how it's going to affect encryption.
Well, yeah, there's some important things happening, and it's actually been happening in the background. People may have heard of this, the whole idea of a quantum computer. And I'll have to tell you that the first time that I heard about a quantum computer was probably 20 years ago. And I kind of poo-pooed the idea that that you could make a computer based upon quantum mechanics. But here we are, 20 years later, and we're on the verge of quantum computing. And so, what does that mean for us? Well, that means for us is that when these quantum computers are finally available, right, that it will break all of our encryption. It'll break everything that we are doing right now. So what's most under attack by quantum computing is the whole idea of asymmetric encryption. ECC, RSA, those are easily broken by quantum computing. And so how far are we away from that? Well, people are talking about, 5 years, 10 years, what have you. And maybe that's true, but I'm going to make a bold prediction and say that my bold prediction is that a nation state actor, most likely is going to be the US or China or Russia or Israel, is going to have a quantum computer within 3 years. And with that quantum computer, they will break all of our encryption. So this is kind of important, right? Because 3 years is not that far off.
Long.
It's not that long. It's not. Right. It's just a few years off. And we need to be thinking about this, that this is something that is in our future. And the result is going to be like a encryption show. Can I say that on YouTube?
You can. I think it's good. You're exactly right. And worse, right? Because every website, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, but like every website, every VPN, because VPNs are quite popular at the moment, it's all going to be broken with us, right?
Well, yeah. So, I had somebody come to me recently and say, well, what I understand is that only asymmetric encryption is going to be broken. But what I tried to explain to this person is that asymmetric encryption is the way that almost all of our protocols exchange keys, right?
Exactly.
So if you can break the asymmetric encryption, then you can intercept the keys in the exchange. So every time you go to a website, right, the first thing your client does, your browser does, is it goes ahead and does a key exchange via asymmetric. It's not the asymmetric keys are just, the asymmetric encryption is just for the key exchange. And the keys are symmetric keys, right? Because asymmetric keys are very slow. Asymmetric encryption is very slow. The whole web would break down if we were dependent upon asymmetric encryption for just, streaming data over the web, going to website after another or listening to YouTube videos. But, but the first step is they exchange keys, symmetric keys, via asymmetric encryption. And quantum computers right now can't do a lot. But what they can do is very rapid calculations, especially the calculations that are necessary for asymmetric encryption. They do this very, very well. And this is based upon, a scientist by the name of Shor, who came up with Shor's algorithm. And he has put together an algorithm that breaks asymmetric very easily. And so this would mean that the first institution, the first country, the first institution, the first hacker who has a quantum computer. Now, let me back up a little bit there and just say that most of the predictions are that, we're 10 years, 5 years from having quantum computers. But a very intelligent man by the name of Jensen Huang, right? Hopefully your viewers know that name. Jensen Huang,
especially if they're gamers. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Exactly. And I've watched Jensen Huang since his start in 1993. That's how long I've been following Jensen. And Jensen is a really smart guy. He's a really good chip designer, and he's also a really good businessman. Right? So that's why NVIDIA has been so successful is not just chip design, but Jensen Huang is a very, very savvy businessman. And so one of the things that he is doing right now is he has his troops, his people, developing a hybrid quantum computer. This hybrid quantum computer would use both CPUs, his GPUs, primarily for what's called error checking, right, ECC, and using a quantum computer to do the calculations. That design is only a few years away from being available. That design. And he's investing heavily now in developing what's called CUDA-Q. So CUDA is one of those, it's an application that NVIDIA developed that allows for massively multiprocessing. That's why NVIDIA chips are so widely used in all artificial intelligence, is that because they can do massive parallel processing. So his team is now working on a massively parallel processing application for quantum computing in a hybrid environment. That is going to come first. That will come first. And when Jensen decides that, it's worth investing in, you better bet on the fact that it's going to be coming soon. He would not be, he's not one of these people who's going to invest in something that's 20 years away. He's investing in something that's going to come very quickly. And so quickly being 3 years. I think 3 years is probably a reasonable number. And then once that hybrid system, the hybrid quantum computer, has three elements, CPU, GPU, and quantum, will be able to break RSA, ECC, and the other asymmetric encryptions. Once that happens, nothing's safe. That's where the show starts. But it's likely to be first by a state-sponsored actor, because the initial machines are going to cost millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars. The only ones who can afford those are the state-sponsored actors, which means that your data will not be safe from the state-sponsored actor. And we're already seeing people getting ready for this day. We're seeing national intelligence agencies, the NSA, the Chinese, the Russians, the Israelis, the European Union. Let's get everybody in there. who is that? I'm sorry for the people I didn't mention, but I'm trying to mention.
Yeah, come on, you must mention every country in the world right now.
Well, I'm mentioning those that have the greatest capabilities in cyber. Right, those nations are collecting encrypted data. Right, they're collecting encrypted data that they can't break right now, with the idea they'll be able to break it in the future. And we see this a lot by the Chinese government. The Chinese government is just collecting encrypted data. So why would they collect encrypted data that they can't read? Right. So what they're doing is they're collecting encrypted data with the idea that in a few years they'll be able to decrypt it with a quantum computer. So all that data that they have collected is going to be available to them in the near future. And now that NVIDIA can sell chips into China, the Chinese might be the first ones to have such a machine.
It's interesting.
Although NSA, US NSA is probably not going to be second, since NVIDIA is a US-based company. They're going to sell first to the NSA. So it's just that I want to make a heads up to everybody, every consumer, everybody who's on the web, that in the very near future, that your encryption is going to be broken. Okay, and you guys can call me crazy. You can call me whatever you want.
But a lot of people are talking about this. Yep.
But I want you to come back in 3 years, and I want you to tell me I'm crazy then. Don't tell me crazy I'm now. Come back to me in 3 years and tell me I'm crazy, and tell me that this hasn't actually taken place. So this is my prediction. And whenever it happens, it's going to be a show. Right? It's for a while. But I think it's going to happen quicker, and I think it's actually possible. It could be even sooner than 3 years. It could be sooner. And the other part that's important to note is that the NIST and other entities are developing post-quantum cryptography. What's called post-quantum cryptography. These are cryptographic algorithms that can't be broken easily by quantum machines. Right? But they require all new hardware. They require all new software. Who's going to be ready for this? So, they've got the algorithms, but you got to go and replace all of your devices in your network to be able to use those post-quantum cryptography. And they're likely to be very expensive as well. So the only companies that will be protected are those who have a lot of cash on hand who can buy these devices. And I would say that we're going to see the quantum or hybrid quantum machines sooner than we're going to see the hardware that's going to use the post-quantum. So you're going to end up with this little window, it may be a few years, this little window where everybody's data is going to be exposed. There's going to be no privacy on the internet. So this is what I'm concerned about, and this is what I want to alert people to. And I want to alert the cyber professionals as well that, you need to think about this. You need to be aware of it. You need to be tracking this because your firm's data will not be safe. And you need to be prepared for that. And when the new devices come to pass, you need to get a new budget. You need a whole new cybersecurity budget that year and replace all of your devices and all your protocols. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there as a warning to people to keep it in mind that this is coming and it's coming sooner than you think.
No, I think you're very right. I mean, I was at Cisco Live in San Diego in February, and they were talking about, or they demonstrated, a network quantum chip. So it's a slightly different use case, but they were also saying they have brought quantum computing forward by a number of years. So, I mean, if you got Cisco, Google, all these companies investing in this, and now NVIDIA, I don't think your prediction is that far off. Because what I'm hearing is, like you said, 5 years, something like that.
Right. I think it's going to happen very soon. It's going to be happening much sooner. And we've all kind of just sat on this and go, oh, it's long into the future, right? But it's 3 years is not a lot of time.
No, it's very little. I mean, if big companies have to update the infrastructure, sorry to interrupt you, I mean, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. It's a nightmare. And it's not only a nightmare of the cost, but it's also a nightmare of trying to implement it and execute it and teaching the people how it works, because this is going to be all new hardware that's going to probably operate differently than what you're accustomed to be able to protect your data. So this could be a really important watershed in the history of the internet, because remember way back in the 90s that a lot of things were traversing the internet without encryption, right? Everything was going over HTTP. And it was real easy for hackers to get into and do a man-in-the-middle attack and see all your data, right? And then we implemented HTTPS and other protocols to keep our data safe. And those protocols all rely upon asymmetric cryptography, which quantum computers will break. Right. And so nothing will be safe again. So what will happen is that any nation state actor who wants to see your data is going to be able to see your data.
Yeah, and it's scary that they're collecting it. I've heard quite a few people say that. And it's interesting that you highlighted that as well, like the Chinese or the NSA. I mean, I always pick on the NSA just because, you're an American, so I'm going to pick on you.
I pick on the NSA all the time. That's fine.
Exactly, you do. So it's they're collecting huge amounts of data, and then, like you said, they're just waiting for this to come, and then they're going to decrypt it all. And that's a worry, right?
So it's not only the data that you're going to be exposed 3 years from now, or whatever that date happens to be, but it's all the data that has already been collected. All right. So NSA collects huge amounts of data. They just collect, we know this from Edward Snowden. He revealed that they have these huge data centers where they just store huge amounts of data. They can't necessarily read all of it now, all right, but they will be in the very near future. So something that you said or did on the internet, like last year or 5 years ago, all of a sudden is going to be exposed. All the more reason to be careful about what you say and do on the internet.
Exactly. Yeah, it's hilarious. The most secure way of communication now for your private data is put it in a physical book or something, not put on the internet, right?
Yeah, write it on a piece of paper, and then burn the paper afterwards.
OTW, I mean, whenever I speak about this kind of stuff, like just recently, at the time of this recording, I posted a video about this Apple encryption thing and the US pushing against the UK. And already people were commenting, oh, the only reason they're doing that is because they've already broken the encryption. So what's your take on encryption? Are there backdoors on the current encryption, or do you see it's that this is just another backdoor for the NSA or whoever to get access to our data?
Okay, so let's talk about the NSA and encryption. Okay,
Yep.
So the NSA if you and I were to develop our own encryption algorithm, right?
Yep.
Then the NSA would come to us, and if we're in the United States, the NSA would come to us and say, "Well, you need to give us a backdoor. That's legally required. You must give us a backdoor." And we know this in part because of cryptographers who've told us this is what happens, but also there was a big case in the 80s and the 90s where Phil Zimmermann was the founder of PGP, probably have all used PGP. So Phil developed a PGP, and then the NSA came to him and said, "Phil, we need a backdoor into your algorithm." And that PGP is an asymmetric algorithm as well. We need a backdoor. And Phil said, heroically, I think, he said, "No, I won't give it to you. I will not give you a backdoor into my algorithm, because then it wouldn't be safe. If you guys have it, then somebody else can have it too, right?"
Exactly.
So as soon as you build a backdoor into any algorithm or any application, people often think, well, it's just because I need tech support or I need help from the company when I have problems. Well, what happens almost always is then the hackers find the backdoor and then they use it, right? So once there's a backdoor, it's not secret for very long. So give Phil, okay, I think he's still alive, okay, haven't heard anything from him in a long time, but give him a lot of credit. He challenged that all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States. And then as the Supreme Court was about to hear the case, the NSA dropped the case, right?
Wow.
So we question, why did they drop the case? They dropped the case. They either dropped the case because they already had a backdoor to develop their own backdoor, or that they were afraid that they would lose, and in which case they couldn't strong arm other companies and developers into giving them backdoors. So either one of them is not good. Okay, so this is the practice that has been around for 40 years at least. It's the NSA requires that you give them a backdoor. So, but at the same time, let's talk about the case, the San Bernardino shooters. Oh, was that like 5 or 6 years ago?
Yeah, it's been a while.
Right, where they could not get into that iPhone. Okay, the FBI could not, and they actually contracted it out to a company in Israel to be able to break the encryption on it. And they paid over $1 million for that. So that tells us that there's some things that the NSA still can't get into, and quantum computing is going to change that. They'll be able to get into everything. But almost all of your encryption algorithms have backdoors in them that are placed there by the NSA. Remember that all of your encryption algorithms have to be approved by NIST, N-I-S-T, National Institute of Standards and Technology. Really good organization in the United States who's in charge of cybersecurity. But if NSA is forcing Phil Zimmermann to give him a backdoor, and he's a private citizen, what are they going to do to NIST? That NIST is under pressure to give them a backdoor as well. So, and even if they don't give a backdoor, I will tell you almost certainly that NIST will not approve an algorithm, an encryption algorithm that they have not provided a backdoor to the NSA. I can say that unequivocally, right? If they've approved it, they've given a backdoor to the NSA. So this argues for some of these other encryption algorithms that are not NIST approved.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That may actually be safer. So this is something that you need to think about in terms of your own security and your organization's security. I mean, maybe you're not concerned about the NSA, and that's okay. That's good. If you don't have, if you're happy with the NSA seeing everything you're doing, and people always say, "Well, I don't have anything to hide." Okay.
Yeah, right. Then why do you have curtains on your in your house, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Why do you have
Why do you
curtains?
close the door when you go to certain rooms in your house? Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Because you want some privacy. You want certain things
Yeah.
that the whole rest of the world doesn't know about, right? And
Yeah.
it's also possible, and this is something that you're seeing in the UK and in the US as well, and other countries around the world, is that the things that you're doing in private might be legal today, but they might
Exactly.
be illegal tomorrow, right?
Exactly right.
And
That's a very good point.
And
Yep.
and so if this data has been captured and stored by the NSA or whoever, they could come back on you and say you broke the law. Right now, there are protections in U.S. law. No ex post facto is what it's referred to, but governments break that stuff all the time. So I would be concerned for that. I would be concerned that I don't necessarily want a government agency to know everything that I'm doing on the internet, because
Exactly.
when I'm talking about the internet, it's really evolved where now everything we do is on the internet,
Yep.
right? Everything. So when we do investigations, we do iPhone and Android phone investigations, and people will come to us and say, "Hey, I've been hacked. Can you find out what's going on?" And it's sometimes a little embarrassing for us because we see the person's entire life.
Good point. Yep.
We go into their phone and we see every email, every SMS message, every WhatsApp message. We see everything they've navigated to on the internet. So we know everything about this person. Now we're not doing anything with it because we're there to investigate, to help them, right? But imagine if a state-based agency had all of your life in front of them. How could they use that against you, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's something that scares.
Especially as the laws change.
Yeah,
the
as laws change, and you've seen it in the UK, right? That the laws have
it's
changed.
very worrying what's going on here. Yeah,
right?
Go on.
And so that's something that people who tell me that they're not worried about the NSA. Well, okay, that may be today, but how about tomorrow? Can you tell me what government is going to be in control and what the laws are going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and all those information may be used against you in the future. So basically what I'm saying is be careful out there, and those of you who are watching this, you guys are cybersecurity pros, right? You guys are out there who know this stuff. You understand what we're talking about, right? But most of the public, that's 99% probably, who have no clue what we're talking about. So
exactly.
It's our job to communicate in a way that people can understand what's taking place and the risks that are there. And for all of us, this quantum computing revolution is going to change privacy in the world, right? And it could be as early as 3 years. So what we're doing is in 2025. Let's come back and talk about this in 2028 and see whether I'm right or not. So
it's going to be a good conversation, but I'm going to hit you with something else because AI is all the rage, right? And it seems like UK government, and I'll just pick on the UK government because that's where I am. So UK government is doing all kinds of crazy things. Or I shouldn't say that because I'm on the internet. All kinds of good things. They are trying to.
I see them in the background. They're coming to arrest you right now.
They're coming to my house. Oh no! They yeah, it's a worry though. You got to be careful what you say on the internet these days in the UK. But what about client-side scanning? Because if they can't get backdoors, getting back to the Apple example, the UK government have these secret, and I can't remember, I have to read up about it again, but they have these secret subpoenas or whatever you want to call it. They can basically tell companies to do things like this thing with Apple, and they keep it a secret, so you don't even know about it. WhatsApp have said that they haven't received this from the UK government, but we don't know which companies have received this about breaking the encryption. But also, like, let's say they can't break the encryption. Then it's like they want to run client-side scanning on your devices. So they want to scan what you're saying before it's encrypted. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think it's a big risk. I think it's something that we probably shouldn't allow. But what we do know is that they do this. This is something that's a very real risk. And so imagine, say, that you're the president of Google, like, or Apple or Facebook or what have you. And your state government, your national intelligence agency comes to you and says, this is a matter of state security. This is national security. We need to access this person's account. Who's going to say no to them? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we know,
especially if it's a legal binding thing, right? I mean, they just throw the law at you. Yeah. Right. What can you do?
Yeah. And we found, like, in the early, when we had the revelations from Edward Snowden, we found that every company cooperated, right?
Yeah,
they all said, "Oh, of course, it's national security. We'll give you here. Tap into our pipe right here.
Yeah, exactly.
tap into our pipe right here, and you can watch all the traffic go by and collect it all." It's a really hard thing for those CEOs to resist, because they're being told that this is national security. They have to give access, or else people will die. So it's pretty hard for them to say no.
Would you ever enable AI on your device? I'm thinking of like Microsoft's Recall, which seems like a crazy idea. And then you've got Apple Intelligence, right? And then you've got like Google, is it Gemini, was on Android phones, and that was also used to hack. To me, it seems like crazy to run AI on your devices, because hackers are finding ways into devices by leveraging the AIs. But also the AIs have access to your data then, and who knows where that goes.
In all honesty, I do not run AI on any of my devices, just for this reason.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
You're basically opening a door, to the company or somebody else who understands how to hack that application to all of your data, right? So it's like, okay, you're bringing me a gift, okay, AI, but I have to give you, okay, all of my data in return, and that's not a trade that I'm willing to make, right?
Exactly right.
I use AI, right? I use AI through browser, but I'm not going to download it into my device. And this might make me sound like a Luddite, right?
No, I don't. I'm with you on this. I think it's the trade-off that they're giving you is so little for the amount of data they're getting about you. Sorry, go on.
No, I'm disagreeing that, I don't want AI in my devices, although that's apparently the next level. What all the companies are shooting for is they want to put AI in your device. And so far, I've resisted that, because I just don't want to give that access to my device and to all my data. But that's, there's a lot of applications that are out there to do the same thing. TikTok does that, for instance. You put TikTok on your device, and you're basically giving TikTok and whoever is behind TikTok all of your data. they can take all of your data. That's not a trade-off I'm willing to make to watch some funny dance videos or whatever happens to be, right? I mean, I like the TikTok videos. I do. I think they're a lot of fun, but I'm not willing to put it on my device, because when you put it on your device, you have to basically give the application access to all of the information on your device. And that's just not something I'm willing to do.
Yeah, we should get you back for some privacy stuff, like from a hacker's point of view. Like, what phones would you recommend if you want to make some recommendations? Like, what operating system? I'm assuming it's Linux, knowing you, but I mean, it's like, what, we should get you back for some recommendations for people who want to try and get some level of privacy in today's world.
Okay, I'd be happy to do that. We can come back and talk about devices and technologies that are going to help people remain safe. But in the case of the quantum, right now, there's nothing's going to be safe, right? It's going to be once you break asymmetric cryptography, and hopefully, if you don't know these terms that I'm talking about, we have a little tutorial on Hackers Rise on cryptography basics. We have a new course coming up in October on intermediate cryptography. So those people who want to dig a little deeper into it and learn about this quantum cryptography, we'll be doing a course in October on the subject. But asymmetric, everything is basically connected. Okay, PKI, public key infrastructure, right? Everything, all the things that we try to encrypt use asymmetric for exchange of keys, right? And if that's broken, all your keys are exposed and all of your data. So this is coming right around the corner, depends upon your perspective on time, but I say 3 years is around the corner, right? It's around the corner. So, and I think that the endorsement by Jensen Huang of this hybrid system, I think tells us that it's coming very quickly. He would not be doing this if he didn't think there was a commercial application coming very, very soon. All right, so he's got his people working on this design. He's developing CUDA-Q so that they can do massively parallel computing in a quantum computer. And I just want to point out that CUDA is really what makes the NVIDIA chips different. Right? The NVIDIA chips are great. They're tremendous at doing computations very rapidly. That's why they're so good at doing graphics, right? Because graphics are simply polygons. It's just shifting polygons, and the polygons are generated by mathematical equations, right? So that's why they are so good at doing that kind of math. But many years ago, NVIDIA developed an app, operating system, what have you, whatever you want to call it. It probably is better to call it an app that allows the developers to do massively parallel processing. That means you can run multiple processes all simultaneously. And this is excellent for graphics. It's also excellent for doing large calculations. It's great for doing AI, right? So this is why AI has all moved to NVIDIA, and why NVIDIA is now a $4.3 trillion company, right? The most valuable company in the world. And why? Because they developed an application that can do massively parallel calculations. Now you apply that to a quantum machine, and then we're basically talking about the end of asymmetric cryptography as we know it. Of course, we can come up with new quantum resistant cryptography, but that is going to be a long time coming. It's going to take all of us years to change out our hardware and software to be compatible with post-quantum cryptography. So just a heads up, folks, right? Be aware, be prepared. This is what's coming down the line, and you need to be ready for it, because otherwise all of your data is going to be exposed to whoever has the quantum computer. And we can only guess who's got the $100 million to buy the first quantum computer, right? It's not going to be you and I, that's for sure.
No. OTW, as always, thanks so much for sharing. For everyone who's watching, please put your comments below, stuff that you want OTW to talk about. I think the privacy stuff's like a really good thing to talk about, especially with what you live this. I mean, I get some comments on YouTube that me, which is hilarious. I'm talking to myself, so I definitely.
I only wish I was you.
Yeah, right. I don't know anything about you, and you're really good with your privacy. So I think we should get you back for some privacy related videos. So everyone who's watching, put your comments below. OTW, as always, thanks so much.
Thank you, David. See you again soon.